Hi, welcome to another episode of Cognitive Resonance, where we get the opportunity to speak to creators. And I have a special guest today that I've known for quite a long time, Jesse James Wroblewski of Generations Beyond. And Jesse's worked with our firm for a long period of time, and he is a brilliant marketer and well known in the area as a true creator. And he has done something that I think a lot of people would like to do, but he's actually achieved this, and he's taken his mindset of everything he's learned and what he's seen in his business and put it into a book and a new concept called Marketing for Supervillains. And that particular moment in time is exactly what this is. This book tears apart all those common follow the rules, follow this, do it exactly like this, and it'll work. And you're saying, no, hold on a second. If you're going to follow the rules, you're just going to be a salmon in the stream, and you're going to spend a lot of time and energy, and no one's going to notice you. So,
using my own business as a guinea pig, right? So we had a quick discussion before we went on camera. It can be maddening when you're trying to be the best in your field. You're sharpening your skills, you're continuing your education, and I'm not supposed to say this in today's environment, but you blow your nearest competitor away, but your bank account doesn't reflect it. The answer isn't more social media, more SEO, more of what everybody's doing. Much like an actual supervillain up late in his lab, lightning strikes and you realize, boom, I have to do something completely different to really take what I've earned, take what's rightfully mine in my industry. So hence Marketing for Supervillains was born. And there were a lot of parallels with, your comic book or your James Bond supervillains that extend way beyond what I just said. And I had a lot of fun with it, and it kind of all lines up. You have to think like a supervillain in today's economy where there's an explosion of choice. You're no longer that special. You may be special in your head, but with the internet and now with AI coming along, we are flooded with choices. How are you going to make yourself stand out?
you have, what I like about the book is that you don't just say, do this. You take examples, and I know you've had a lot of wrestling examples and other examples of people that when I read it, I was like, I don't follow that sport, but I know that name. So I think if you just, for the moment, if you could spend a few minutes on some of these characters, which they're animated.
Absolutely.
They're animated characters, and you know them even if you're not, they've broken outside of their genre because of who they are. And, I know you spend a lot of time with Weird Al Yankovic, and I'm like, the guy's still friggin' popular.
Yep, number one on Billboard last.
And he's recreating something that somebody already created.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about some of these, or share with us some of these characters that...
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to work with a coach, and I am how I am. I've always been kind of a little offbeat. And as I was listing these examples, he kept, why? Why are you like this? Why are you dressed that way? Why have you always dressed that way? Why have you always liked stuff that was kind of off? Why? And it got down to 8-year-old me discovering Weird Al and figuring out these building blocks as to, why I am the way I am and why my values are in such a place. So, always kind of leaning towards the more offbeat stuff. There's a character that very pivotal, this guy Paul Heyman, as clear as day, differentiated himself, niched down on a particular unserved portion of an audience in the wrestling culture, and built a revolution, built a brand that 30 years later people still chant passionately, even though the brand has come and gone. So kind of taking something that's out there and somehow, some way, making it a cult status product. And one of the litmus tests that we have is this brand cool enough to not only would someone voluntarily wear your gear without being asked to, or share one of your posts without being asked to, would they go so far as to get it tattooed on their body? That's a powerful cult status brand.
Yeah, that's pretty much says,
Yeah.
I'm all in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The as I'm reading the book, and I know it's written about marketing, but it's really not. It's really beneficial for anybody who's in a small business, and it covers some of the issues that we've faced here at my company. Do you I remember one part? Do you staff up? Oh, we got to staff up to be able to do the work, but then how do we handle having the staff, having the work to pay the staff, and you run through all these other issues. So, and then you tend to say, well, listen, I can't just market outside. I got to have everybody together. I got to market internally. And how do I make it fun and exciting and engaging to keep staff? Why do people want to stay? And if you're just, caught in this little spot, I can't get anybody to work for me. Well, why? Because you're not different. Now, the word differentiator, and this is a big thing, and you have it there, be a differentiator. And we, in the marketing world, understand a differentiator. Okay, what is that? But I think we just spoke a little bit. Not everybody understands what that means.
Right.
So I can say, well, a differentiator in the audio video world years ago was Crazy Eddie, right? And he had these commercials that, he just was loud, and he was a differentiator in a very kind of annoying way, but still he's probably out of business 30 years. And if I say Crazy Eddie, people just immediately know that's pretty good marketing clout. So maybe just if you take us and peel it down a little bit as to when we say be a differentiator, that doesn't necessarily mean be Crazy Eddie.
Exactly.
What is if you were advising somebody who's watching the show to say, what does a differentiator look like, and then how maybe you hone that skill?
Yeah, so great point. When people hear the word, even just different or differentiator, they think, oh, I have to be outlandish, I have to wear crazy clothes, I have to be the weird guy in the room.
You pointing to me?
I mean, we're cut from the same cloth. That's definitely not the case. We have something called the universe of differentiation, where there's more than 12, but we choose the top 12 differentiators that big brands across the world have used to successfully differentiate themselves. And that includes companies like Tiffany, companies like Steinway Pianos that you would never, colloquially associate with being different. But they've differentiated themselves, and they stand head and shoulders above other piano companies, other jewelry companies. They're up here because they successfully found that differentiator. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, differentiator, that's the same as a USP, a unique sales proposition. You figure out what you do different or how you offer it differently, and you're off to the races. And it's a little bit of yes and no, because a great USP can be a differentiator, but a great differentiator can blow away your USP. Right? So to give you an example, there's a company called Liquid Death. It's just water, right? All they do is sell water.
I love this, the whole business thing.
Right?
It's crazy.
They don't have a USP. They don't say their water tastes better. They don't say the water gets to you in a more economic fashion. What they did was they found an unserved portion of the audience, and they created that cult status. They catered to that audience, of that being headbangers, heavy metal fans. And now their valuation is literally over 10 times their sales. So they do about 50 million in sales, and they're worth way over $500 million. So that differentiator, forget about another water company with a USP that says we have more hydrogen or whatever they say
definitely.
now. A great differentiator will take you into the next millennium.
So and I've read the Liquid Death story. I watched the videos on how he even came about. But here is a seasoned marketing guy, and his frustration.
Yeah.
And the reason why he's in his own business is because he was a marketing expert like yourself, and he was frustrated with pitching these great ideas to brands and businesses that wouldn't ever, he'd walk. I think he says something similar to what you say in your book. You walk out of this, you get this presentation. Hey, we should do this, and this is going to be great. Your team's together. You've come up with this great idea, and then you get there, and they're like, oh, that's too. It's too much for us. That's too crazy for us. And he went and said, on his own, and bottled water. Who would think? And this is true. Like you know, if I came to somebody and said, I want to open up a hamburger joint, they say, well, it's done before. But how many times has that been redone?
Right.
How many times has coffee been redone? So even if you say, well, I just do this kind of mundane thing, how could I differentiate myself? That's when you got to call Jesse. And if you can't get your head around that piece, but be prepared. If you're going to want to make a step forward, it can't be just that you've sharpened your sword a little sharper than anybody else's. Maybe there's got to be blood dripping from it.
Right.
And then, hey, look how sharp it is. But it's just, oh, we won't do that. That's too crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us about where you're going with the book. What's are you positioning yourself as more of a consultant now? Or you're still mostly doing straight on branding production? Or?
Yeah, I mean, again, using myself as a hardcore example, we have an agency for about 25 years. When COVID hit, I think like everybody, there was some soul searching that was going on, and I figured out what was the most rewarding, what were the most successful campaigns, and it turns out over the past 25 years, it was always taking something that's not really exciting or sexy and kind of injecting life into it. And almost that misnomer, the farther apart, the starting point and the end point was the more successful and more fulfilling that it was. So I was like, all right, I want to learn why, right? Why is that fulfilling to me? Why is that successful in the industry? And everybody says, find your differentiator, find your USP, but no one tells you how to do it, right? It's a very difficult thing to do. So again, going 10 layers deep and trying to be the best in the world at differentiating, I kind of figured out a process of how to actually authentically and with high opportunity land on a proper differentiator and how you go to market.
That's great. And I love the book. I love the whole idea. I like your podcast and some of the antics that come up and some of the stuff you've done creatively. I remember like in the beginning, it must have been 20 years ago, and your website is how you doing, and you speak to them, and then you jump out of the frame into the screen. And that was long before anybody was doing that. And I said, it's got technical chops behind it. It's not just an ideas person. It's a person that you could say, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? And then you did it. So I wish you tremendous success. If you're in a business that you've been running for a long time, or part of a business that you're running a long time, nonprofit, really doesn't matter what you're doing, and you kind of feel like you haven't broken out of that space, or I like what you said before, you haven't gotten the respect you deserve for your craft, and you say, listen, I want to be recognized as a different player here. I want to be able to get at least what I deserve and maybe a few dollars more for our services. I want my team to grow, and you're ready for that. I think about picking up this book and or maybe giving a call to Jesse. We'll put the links in the comments and having that conversation and talk about how you do. And we know that doing the same thing over and over again is insanity. And of course, we're complaining about it. It's an exciting ride that you can take by putting Jesse or somebody from his team on your team and get that creative energy going. We've used you certainly for a number of things. Jesse, we need a name for something. And I remember that, after you guys suddenly walked around the industrial park for a while and come back, and we got this name, and we now have Immersa is trademarked to us nationally, and that was probably 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're moving into a time period where everything's Van Gogh and immersive this, immersive that, and if we're sitting we're sitting pretty here with a name that's pretty spot on to where the industry is going, and that was because.
I thank you for your trust, and it's not always an easy baton to pass. And people think, we're going to differentiate. He's going to put a crazy hat on my brand, and he's going to send us out. It's very collaborative. It's very authentic to the brand, and it's not always, boom, 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 punchline. It's there's a lot of science that goes into it, as well as having some fun.
Well, hey, it's been great having you here, and I look forward to working with you more and seeing where this book takes you, and learning more about how we can, our company and our place. And this is one of the things we're doing where, we didn't want to do a podcast. I said, listen, let's give somebody some creative content. I am drawn to people who create. I just think it's a wonderful possibility that we've been given, a gift that we've been given through whatever your God, the universe, whatever it is, the fact that we can create things from the things that are already made and from things from pretty much from scratch is an amazing phenomenon. And you are a perfect. When we started thinking about the show and who was going to be on it, you definitely were on the list from the start. So I'm glad we got an opportunity. And then you wrote a book, and so it made it like, this is just makes a lot of sense. So thanks again for spending a few minutes with us here at the Cognitive Resonance. And Jesse, good to
Thank you,
have
sir.
Uh-huh.
Always a pleasure.